Hello everybody, welcome back to a new video. In today's video, I'm going to go over the catalog flashback for the New Year's Eve weekend in 2018. So yeah, started. So if you know what the catalog flashback series is, it's pretty much a series where I go over a past catalog update or event just for nostalgia's sake, because it's fun to look back at some of the things that happened in Roblox's past and how they have changed up till now. And I thought this was a pretty interesting weekend because most weekends back when Roblox still uploaded their own items, they usually had a specific theme and they usually uploaded maybe around 7 items. So not too many, but a pretty decent amount for just a regular weekend. However, this weekend here actually had around 30 plus items, so it kind of acted as a mini sale, kind of like the midnight sale acts as a mini sale. So that was pretty interesting, and I think a lot of people did not expect them to really upload this much for a regular New Year's weekend. But we did get over 30 items here, some new ones, some limiteds, some discounts, so it was definitely a pretty big weekend for the holiday here. So starting off the weekend, they did start with a discount. They discounted these snow glasses to 50 Robux, which is a pretty nice choice here. Then they had a little wave of new items for New Year's specifically for 2019. So we had the 2019 shades released for 50 Robux. We had the 2019 lapel pin released for 25 Robux. We had the 2019 spinning noisemaker released for 50 Robux. We had the 2019 crown released for 100 Robux. The 2019 New Year's hat released for 119 Robux. And the 2019 fireworks released for 200 Robux. So a long string of 2019 specific items here that released at the early portion of this weekend. So the first item right over here, these snow glasses, were discounted all the way down to 50 Robux, which is actually a pretty huge discount given right now they're actually 250 Robux, so they were discounted over 80%, which is a pretty huge discount, over 200 Robux off, so that was definitely a pretty good choice to discount here, especially since they aren't the most popular item, and 250 Robux is a pretty high price for a regular pair of glasses, so a pretty big discount on these definitely made sense. I think it was definitely a pretty nice choice here, and if you're able to get it, you were definitely able to get these for relatively cheap, given that they are still more expensive now. Next up, we got one of the new items, the 2019 shades. These also look pretty cool, another nice pair of shades here. These don't work well for future years, of course, since they're specific to 2019, but still a very cheap item that is still on sale, so if you did want to get this one, it is still available here on sale. Next one over here, the 2019 lapel pin, kind of similar case to the shades. It is made specifically for 2019, so if you don't have anything specific that's important to you that happened this year, wearing this in the future year might be a little bit strange, but it is a very cheap item like most of these lapel pins are, so it did pretty well given its cheap price. But still, it's a pretty cool looking item here. There are quite a few of these New Year's lapel pins, so definitely not too bad of a new release here to have had for the New Year's weekend. Next up right over here, the 2019 spinning noisemaker. This is pretty interesting. It is one of the last gear items that Roblox released, so a pretty interesting item here. Once again, has the year on it, so it probably won't work too well in future years, but still a pretty cool item here, and also a very cheap gear item, so one that you can still get for not too much nowadays, although it probably will not appear in most games given that it is a gear item. Next up over here we have the 2019 crown. This one's also a pretty interesting item here, also specifically made for 2019, so for future years probably won't work too well, but it's a pretty interesting crown shape, kind of looks like a cake almost, so a pretty unique item here in terms of its design, and a nice item here to have been released for the New Year's of that year, and one you can still get for relatively cheap as well, so not too bad over here. Next up over here we have the 2019 New Year's hat, which is a top hat. All the items here actually do have a very similar color palette with the gold and the black, so if you did end up buying a lot of these, they actually work pretty well together given that they are all very similar in color, so a pretty nice item here, one that you can still purchase today, so not a bad item here that released for the New Year's that year. Next up over here we have the 2019 fireworks, once again another one with the year on it, so not that great for future years. However, this one is actually a bit different in terms of the color palette here. It is a bit more colorful, a lot more vibrant, so it stands out quite a bit. Won't work too well with the other items, but still looks pretty nice, and it's pretty huge when you do wear it, so it was a pretty nice gear item to have been released for this weekend as a part of the New Year's holiday. Now moving on, they did release a couple more items, one more New Year's item, the New Year's kitty for only 15 Robux, but they also released at the back half of this weekend more items that were just general and not specific to New Year's, so pretty interesting here how they decided to split it up, with the first half being New Year's and then the next portion being regular items. Then the next item after that was the Spear of Precision, which released released for 300 Robux. Then we did get a duo of unicorn headpieces. We got the Dawn unicorn headpiece for 100 Robux and the Midnight unicorn headband for 100 Robux as well. So two different items here that ended up being retextures of each other for both 100 Robux. Then we did also get the Mighty and Magical Great Sword for 300 Robux, as well as two new pretty expensive gear items, which is the Fireball spell for 600 Robux, as well as the Nightmare Guitar for 550 Robux. So first up right over here, the New Year's Kitty, a very cute item, was only 15 Robux, so it was very affordable, which is why it has so many favorites. Pretty much anybody could have gotten it. This one is not specific to 2019, so you can still buy it today, and it would still work for any future year, so definitely a pretty cute item here, and the fact that they made it so cheap definitely elevates it as many people were able to get this one. So a very cute item here for the New Year's holiday, and one you can still wear in the future years, as there is no specific year on it to restrict it to that year. Next up, the Spear of Precision. This one was released for 300 Robux. This one actually did fairly well, has over 15,000 favorites, so definitely pretty cool item here, definitely well designed spear here, and an item that will actually work well with a lot of different outfits, so definitely makes sense that this one did pretty well, and we can still buy it today for the original price. Then we ended up getting the two unicorn headpieces. We have the Dawn unicorn headpiece, as well as the Midnight unicorn headpiece. They're both retextures of each other. The Midnight one is the black version with gold, and the Dawn one is white with purple, so definitely a pretty interesting duo of items here, and there are quite a few unicorn headpieces on the catalog. You can even see some here in the recommended section, so these definitely were not the most innovative items, but they both look pretty nice, and because of how simple they are, they both did pretty well, with both of them having over 10,000 favorites. So definitely pretty nice duo of items here to release for this weekend. Next up over here, we have the Mighty and Magical Greatsword. This one also did very well, like the New Year's Kitty, but this one mostly did well because of its looks. It is on the more expensive side for 300 Robux, so definitely a pretty big success for an expensive item to do that well with over 60,000 favorites. So definitely a pretty cool item. This one definitely ended up getting quite a lot of owners due to how nice it looks, and it works well with a lot of different outfits. So definitely a nice release here for this little New Year's weekend here, and one of the most popular releases of this weekend. Next up, we have the two gear items. We have the Fireball spell, which is a pretty interesting item here. You can see there's even a little bookmark here with a little fire underneath, so it's a pretty creative item, definitely a well-made item here. Also one of the last gears released, so a pretty nice usage of the theming here, and one you can still buy today for a pretty expensive price of 600 Robux. Same case here, the Nightmare Guitar, also a pretty nice fire-themed kind of item here, also on the more expensive side of 550 Robux, so it didn't really do that well, has only a little bit above 1,000 favorites, so one of the more forgotten items here, but still it looks pretty cool, and it's a nice addition to this weekend here. So that is going to be part 1 of this catalog flashback series for this New Year's weekend in 2018. There are quite a lot of items here, so I'm going to split this into 2 parts. So this is the first half where you're able to see the New Year's items and some of the other new releases that they had for the weekend. And in part 2, I'll go over the rest of the items, which includes some limited items as well as some more new releases. So that is the end of part 1, and part 2 will be out shortly, covering the rest of this week. So yeah, that's this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!